The name also that you have thrown out there that I've always thought, as of late, it makes some sense to move is Jordan Reed, right? Because you just can't rely on him.
Well, I think here's the thing, and again, in conversations, what you hear is if they were doing a big rebuild, then it would make sense to try to trade him and then get, if the Redskins were going to tear this down, I think, he would be a guy you probably look to trade him because he does have value around the league. I think, to be honest, you would put Chris Thompson on that list as well.
Wow. As
a guy that if you're going to go for the same reason, for the exact same reason. I mean, Thompson's missed 12 games the last 2 years combined. And,
right.
He's like both of them are good players. This isn't about whether or not they can play. It's about maximizing value. And if you wanted to tear it down, these are guys that have value. So you could, if you want to get, if their goal was to get a lot of picks and just go young, really young this year and play the young guys and all that, well, I think both of those would be on the table. I'm not anticipating that. But I think, again, for the same, I think that's the scenario where I could see that. Because otherwise, if you cut Jordan Reed and if you cut him, you have to replace him. And, it costs money to replace a guy like that. And there aren't a lot of good options in free agency. This is a good draft for tight ends. So maybe you look at something there, but I would not anticipate them drafting a tight end in the first round. So, would you be willing to cut a guy like that for maybe a third-round tight end, And so I think that's where it'd be hard. I think Vernon Davis is in that same position where if they his number is high. But if you I don't think right now there's no replacement for him necessarily. So if you draft somebody, maybe there is for him. But with Reed, I think the big thing would be if they wanted to go into a rebuild, then you may look to trade him to maximize the value.
Are there certain free agents that you think they might be interested already? Have you heard any names?
I haven't heard. I'm going to hear those names after this week. Okay. So, because this is where this is where a lot of I think you can look at positions that I think they target there, but I don't know that this week is where you hear this is where agents get all the meetings in India, talk to guys, and there's contact beforehand. Clearly that's how you set up meetings, and they know what they want to talk about. But I think we'll hear more after this. I think it's more what positions would they target in free agency as much as anything.
Right. All right, so with the Combine, there 17 quarterbacks I think were invited, and obviously yes. Kyler is the talk of the draft right now. And who was it who tweeted yesterday that they think that it's just going to be Colt, that he's talked to the Redskins and he thinks it's going to be Colt? Was it
well, I think Ian tweeted, but that's not that's I think anybody who covers this team has said something similar along the lines of they are comfortable going in that direction. That is not a slam dunk.
Right. I said to the guys, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, because they've had a chance to turn to Colt as the number one guy going into a season before and did not. They went with Kirk. And then last offseason, I heard the same stuff, and then they traded for Alex Smith. So I'm with you on that. I'm not sold. And it's not just Jay Gruden who believes they can win with Colt McCoy. Now win to what level? Well, that's, I think, who knows? But
who else is it beyond Jay then?
Yeah.
When you say it's beyond
it goes
Jay.
Beyond Jay. It definitely goes beyond Jay, and I think the whole thing with Rappaport's tweet was in relation to also to Nick Foles. They could clearly create cap room to sign a guy like that, but then you're devoting $5 million to the quarterback position this year, and you have to say, is Nick Foles worth that? I don't think so. But I think the feeling is that obviously Colt would need more help, just like a lot of quarterbacks would. But the question is the durability. You can't. I mean, it's been the number one issue for him. I mean, we don't know what he could do over 16 games because we haven't seen that, and we don't even know what he could do over 10 games here because we haven't seen that. So I think that's where the big question mark lies with McCoy, and so that's why I would expect. Can you really go into it with Colt and Josh Johnson and then a fourth-round pick? I mean, that seems to be the best situation, because I think you'd want a little bit more insurance if you really believe in Colt, but if something happened that you could continue.
Well, this is what we're gonna know, John. Obviously, the free agents period starts before the draft. If they don't sign a quarterback, we obviously know what they're doing in the draft. They're gonna
and I absolutely,
yeah.
And that's why and here the tricky part is even with free agency. So let's say you want to go get Teddy Bridgewater, and he's a guy that I think would probably be a good risk because you may be able to get him low. I don't know that his contract's going to go that high because he hasn't played in a while. I think there's a narrative around him that people assume it will, but there's not a lot of competition for starting jobs. So I don't know that he's going to get this massive deal. But even still, he'll probably get like he got last year, 1 year, $6 million. Well, that's more than what Colt McCoy would make. So you'd be bringing Bridgewater in, probably paying him more, but yet have Colt have the first chance to start. So it could be, I don't know how awkward it would be, but it could be. But I think if they don't sign guys like that, they just bring back Josh Johnson. Yes, to me that would signal that they would like to find one in the draft and probably higher up.
Mm-hmm.